Hello everybody, this is Edward and welcome back. In this video we're going to take a look at one very important tool and that is Duplicate, which allows us to create multiple copies of our object. So here is our cube, and there are a couple of ways how we can do that. You will definitely find an option here under Edit, which is copy and paste, and that's commonly used in other programs, but we do not really want to be using that here in Maya. And up in the top here I do have our hypergraph loaded so we can actually look at the hierarchy. I do have display shape nodes checked, so I can actually see my cube and its pivot point right here. So let's go ahead and take a look at why copy is not a good idea, or copy and paste actually. So if we have our cube selected, our object, let's say copy, and let's go ahead and hit paste here. Notice that right now we've got two hierarchies. This is my original cube, and this other one, this is the second cube that was copied. Notice what happens to its name, and notice that we're also getting an additional pivot point here, which is a group. It's as though we group this object to itself. So let's go ahead and do this one more time. Copy, paste, and notice that right now we are getting a little bit more than we asked for. Now we have actually 3 pivot points and the shape, and look at the naming right here. So it's definitely not what we would like to be doing. Instead, what we should do is duplicate. So under edit, duplicate, Control D. That will create a clean copy of our object. You can also do Control D, just simply use hotkeys. So there we go. The other option here is DuplicateSpecial, which we should definitely look at. So let me go ahead and reset all the options here. So by default, the DuplicateSpecial is no different from a regular duplicate, and that is if we're not changing any options here. So right now, copy, we're just making a copy of this, and we're not gonna move it, rotate it, or scale it, or make multiple copies right away. So this is actually what this DuplicateSpecial is all about. It allows us to create a couple of operations automatically by setting it all up here. So if we have a copy and hit apply, as you can see, we're just getting the same effects as a regular duplicate. However, we can translate our object, let's say 2 units in Y, so this is X, Y, and Z. We can rotate it if we want to right away, and we can actually make multiple copies of that. Let's make, I don't know, 6 more copies, and we can even scale each copy. Let's just do 8, 0, less typing. Hit apply, and now what we're gonna get is 6 more copies. Each one will be moved up relative to its parent, and it's going to be rotated 45 degrees and also scaled. So this is a cool feature. Notice that everything that we do here is actually happens based on where the pivot point is. So if we decide to edit the position of the pivot point, and let's say offset it this way, right now what we're gonna do, well, what Maya will do is actually rotate it from this pivot point, and it's gonna move it up, and it's also going to scale it from the pivot point location. So so let's put a pivot point right there. By the way, it's insert or home on a Mac for the Mac users. Hit apply, and now we are getting a completely new results. So very useful if we are trying to create an array of similar or the same objects. like a row of bolts. But if we are actually doing like a row of bolts, it's probably a good idea to simplify certain things and make it easier for Maya to render, and also set it up in such a way that if we do need to make a change to our object, we can actually do it on one of them, and it will replicate automatically to the other ones. And for that particular situation, what we use is an instance. Let me go ahead and reset that. So instead of a copy, we can do an instance. Let's go ahead and also center our pivot. So let's say we do have a row of bolts. Let me just maybe create a cylinder here, and instead of 20 sections, I'm just gonna make 6. There we go. Very simple object. Edit, duplicate special, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna move it along the x-axis, let's say 2 units, and we're gonna make 5 more copies. I think that's enough. But we're also going to use an instance instead of a copy. Let's hit apply and watch what happens here in the hypergraph. Instead of getting a full copy, we actually have 6 pivots, 6 anchors. So which means that we can grab each object here, we can rotate it, we can actually scale it, we can randomize things, so we can get our bolts to actually be a little bit more random. But if we do need to change, so again, notice that as far as the scale, rotation, everything is independent. But as soon as I go to my component mode and grab, let's say, a vertice and decide to move it, notice that that will affect all of the instances here, because it's essentially one single shape. So if we want to make this thing look nicer, let's actually grab our paint select tool. We're just gonna paint all these top faces here, and we haven't talked about modeling tools, but I'm just gonna use them. So here we go, and we can just do some additional detailing, and it will replicate. We will see that happened on all of those instances. Again, it's a much easier on rendering. And as far as managing, if we know exactly that the shape, the details need to be exactly the same, all we need to do is just sort of randomize the basic things like translate, rotate, and scale. Think about it like maybe leaves. We've got same looking leaf, but we can just create one and populate a tree with sort of one object. Okay, all we need to do is just position it a little bit different. You know, one will be oriented this direction, the other one is that direction. Maybe there's going to be a little bit more scale on one, and so forth. So it will look will not look like every leaf is exactly the same, but it will definitely be a much more manageable scene. So that's our duplicate special, either as a copy or as an instance. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you guys in the next video.